Pain and suffering are experienced to some extent by everyone in the world. It's not a matter of if, but when you're going to deal with something painful, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That being said, some people have had to deal with a lot more pain than others so far in their life, and that same principle applies to agents in Valorant. While they've all experienced hurt and pain of some kind, some of them have had to endure some crazy things. So which agent has experienced the worst of it? Let's dive into the lore of the most tortured agents in Valorant. Before Valorant, Deadlock was part of a private military group called Stalljäger, which means Steel Hunters. Alongside her two sisters in arms, they were contracted to extract and move a Radivore bear from Svalbard, Norway to America. During the extraction, they discovered that the Radivore had broken free from its containment unit and it began hunting their group down, killing her two sisters in arms as well as the Kingdom scientists sent with them. Trying to stay alive, Deadlock managed to get the Radivore into a chamber she could close off and turn on to destroy it. As she went to close the door though, the Radivore got a hold of her arm. This started the bonding process between a Radivore and a human, allowing Deadlock to briefly understand the Radivore, who was asking for help while also actively hunting her down. With the door unable to fully close because of this, she had to choose between losing her arm or her life. So with the door still open, she activated the chamber, which destroyed the Radivore and her own arm in the process. With no one left to help her and only an ounce of strength left, she sent out a beacon for help before passing out. After being discovered by Valorant and recruited to the team, she opted for a prosthetic arm instead of having Sage restore her flesh, saying, "Take this away and everything they gave would have been for nothing." Brimstone was a military man even before he joined Valorant. He and his best friend Tariq Porter grew up together, got their first jobs as firefighters together before they eventually joined a special forces group called the Ragged Ravens. In the midst of a battle, Tariq died in his arms, and Brimstone could do nothing to save him. There was no Sage to heal or revive. He lost his friend and had to deliver the news to Tariq's family about his death. And now he leads Valorant as the pain of that loss haunts him every time one of his agents dies on the battlefield. Even though Sage can revive, it doesn't stop the memories from flashing back. To make matters worse, Teho was also part of the Ragged Ravens with them, and Brimstone blames Teho for Tariq's death. And now Teho's also joined Valorant, probably making those memories haunt him all the more frequently. Viper is a scientist specialized in chemistry. She started out using her talents to help heal people. We don't know to what extent, but she was an award-winning scientist. But then something happened. Someone close to her likely got very injured or sick, and they eventually died. She attempted to get them help, even seeking the healing radiance in the mountains of China where Sage was studying. But the only thing she found was
false hope and grief. That's all this valley offers. Everything else is a lie.
After that, she fundamentally changed, isolated herself, and shed all the pieces of her past life. Now she pursues vengeance, utilizing her skills in chemistry to make toxins as her weapon of choice. And to make matters even worse, while she was researching Radianite, a certain someone came into her lab, attempting to kill her. She defended herself only to have him come work with her in the Valorant protocol. That someone is another suffering agent, Omen. Before Omen became, Omen, he was an assassin for a group called the Scions of Hourglass. This is the group whose headquarters are on the map Abyss. Hourglass's goal was to keep knowledge of Radianite and Radiance out of the hands of the public. So they took out everyone who came to know about Radianite, as well as taking Radiance captive. When Viper discovered Radianite and began researching it in her lab, Omen was sent to take her out in an attempt to squash their, quote, discovery of Radianite. In self-defense, Viper used her poisons on Omen, got him into the Radianite test chamber, and then turned it on. Pure beams of Radianite energy hit Omen, tearing him across space-time. Somehow he was pieced back together into the Shadow Man he is today. He lost all his memories and was plagued with not knowing who he was or how he got to be that way. They eventually recruited him to Valorant as the third agent behind Brim and Viper. He desperately sought answers while Viper was plagued by the truth, trying to protect herself by not letting him discover his past. But Omen's search was relentless. He eventually tracked down Hourglass after ISO joined Valorant, and he learned what he had done to Viper.
Liam, we need to talk. When Omen didn't know about his past, he was contained, a known entity. We kept him in the dark to protect both him and us. I had to lie to him. He tried to kill me. Now he's starting to piece things together, and I can't anticipate his actions now. Will he retaliate? Maybe leave the protocol? There are too many variables out of my control. Keep an eye on him.
She knew who I was this whole time. She knew so much more than me. Why didn't she tell me? Why couldn't she help? Does she think that I'm some kind of monster? I will speak with her soon. But now I need more time. Brimstone, just know this. I am not my past.
Thankfully, he reconciled with Viper, but he still must live knowing what he used to do, while also still missing the majority of his past memories. Vyse is a Radiant who was captured and kept prisoner by the Scions of Hourglass for over a decade before she escaped. She used to work at Kingdom as a scientist researching the Interverse, which is the space between worlds that Radivors like Gecko's crew can access. Somewhere along the way, her and her research were attacked and burned. Although we don't know how Vyse became a Radiant, we do know that at the time of her research getting destroyed, she was already a Radiant. You can see her metallic fingers in this player card. The Scions of Hourglass captured her and took her prisoner. Since her radiance allows her to manipulate metal, she was put in a particularly cruel prison chamber, with liquid nitrogen being pumped in to make the air a balmy -321 degrees Fahrenheit or -196 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, Vyse's radianite-infused metal is inert, and she cannot manipulate it. So she was held prisoner there for over a decade before a stray bullet pierced her cell from VALORANT fighting the Scions. The cold air slowly escaped and warmed up enough for Vyse to finally break free. Fade is a Radiant bounty hunter from Turkey whose radiance reveals a target's deepest fears. Fade refers to her Radiant power as Nightmare, as if it were a separate entity, and to her it feels entirely real. In reality though, Nightmare is just a manifestation of her Radiance personified. That being said, her Radiance gives her a lot of power to understand people's worst fears, and it also plagues her, costing her sanity and comfort. She experiences nightmares every single time she goes to sleep. She can dig deep into these dreams to gain more information, but she has to do so while she's having the nightmare. And it's rather difficult to interpret a nightmare while you're in one. So Fade tends to avoid sleep, but sleep deprivation is a whole other beast. Not only does Fade have to deal with her radiance, but someone close to her was also kidnapped, and now she's seeking him out. She originally thought VALORANT took him, so that's why she blackmailed the entire team in search of answers. VALORANT is not in the business of kidnapping though, so they fought Fade off and eventually contained her. After explaining everything, she decided to join them, hoping to find him along the way. However, blackmailing an entire team before joining them doesn't do wonders for others' perceptions of you. Although she gets along fine with most other agents now, some are still a bit wary of her. Cypher is an information broker from Morocco who forever keeps his face hidden behind his mask. He prioritizes anonymity to the point that his deepest fear is that being revealed. He has a wife named Nora, and together they have a child. Unfortunately, he lost them.
I must survive to protect my family. I can't lose them. I can't feel that pain again.
Some theorize that his family died, while others think his family is alive, he just can't see them right now in order to protect them. In Fade's dossier on Cypher, she says, "And your face. You've considered revealing it to those closest to you, but no, too risky. The mask stays on. Because what's another year without Nora seeing your eyes, or sharing a smile with your little one?" This seems to imply that they are alive, but even around those he trusts the most, he can't remove the mask. Not without risking his family's lives. We're not sure why his face being seen would risk so much, but some theorize that a broker deal he had went sideways, and as a result, he and his family are being hunted. To keep them safe, he must remain anonymous. Regardless of the why, Cypher clearly experiences a lot of pain trying to protect himself and his family from facing loss. Even if it means never sharing his true self with anyone. Not even those in VALORANT, forever stuck behind his mask. Breach is a congenital amputee, meaning that he was born without either of his arms. Because of his limb loss, he grew up experiencing a lot of judgment and belittling. People labeled him as weak or a victim. In an attempt to prove them wrong, he took the path of a criminal, following in his crime family's footsteps. Eventually, his family was caught and tried by Sweden's court of law. His entire family was rightly punished, except Breach. The judge took pity on Breach, unable to see past his disability. The judge didn't sentence him, giving him freedom instead. But Breach didn't like that, and he saw it as another unwanted societal judgment. It was unwanted, unneeded, and most importantly, undeserved. He was just as much responsible for the crimes as the rest of his family. So he struck back, continuing on to even greater heists until his actual abilities couldn't be denied any longer. However, this means that Breach is continually being sought by law enforcement. To that end, at least on Alpha Earth, he can't really go back home anymore or ever live freely like he used to, not without needing Cypher to erase his digital footprint. Oddly enough, on Omega Earth, because of everything Omega Breach has done to help their world since then, he's become a celebrated hero that's taken his status as a role model very seriously. He now helps others like him to feel confident in their limb differences without letting the world label them as weak or lesser. Jett is in a similar situation to Breach, except she herself didn't do anything wrong. Her Omega double did. Jett is from Seoul, South Korea, and she worked at her family's restaurant as a chef. The general public on Alpha Earth isn't aware that an Omega Earth even exists. One day, Omega Jett came to Alpha Earth, seeking out Alpha Jett and attacking her. The two got into a fight, and as a result, a huge windstorm formed over Seoul, destroying her family's restaurant. Because the world doesn't know about the Mirror Earth, they all blamed Alpha Jett, even though it wasn't all her fault. Later on, Omega Jett came to Alpha Earth again in an attempt to steal Radianite from Venice. Alpha Phoenix was sent to try and stop her. Tons of footage of the two were plastered all over the news after Omega Jett's makeshift spike caused all of Venice to begin floating in the air. The population believed again that this was Alpha Jett's doing, labeling her as a dangerous Radiant. So now she also can't go out in public like normal without needing Cypher to destroy all the evidence. This causes a lot of suffering for Jett, as she wants to live a normal life and go out with her teammates, but often can't because of her double's actions. So, which agent do you think has suffered the most? If I had to choose, I would say it's a toss-up between Vyse and Fade. Both of them have experienced some crazy things and seem to suffer a lot even if they don't express it often. But what do you think? Are there any agents I didn't include that you would put on this list? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. God bless. Bye!